the Johnny Carson show, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, remember? Most of us grew up cutting our teeth on Johnny Carson. And one time I remember I was reminded of it this week. The young man is from West Virginia. He's 8 years old, and he had saved two of his buddies from a coal mine there in his town, outside his little town there in West Virginia. And as Johnny was talking to him, it became evident that he was a Christian, this little 8-year-old. And Johnny said, "Hey, you're a Christian? You go to Sunday school?" He said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Well, what was the Sunday school lesson last Sunday?" And without a hitch, he says, "It was the wedding at Canaan that Jesus turns water into wine." And everybody starts laughing in the audience. "You remember this? This was a long time ago. It's pretty funny." And the whole audience is kind of laughing and embarrassed because he knew this so easily. All the ramifications of having this excess wine and stuff like that. And Johnny Carson's just trying his best not to smirk, and he's that stone face he used to try to do when he was trying not to laugh. And he said, "Well, young fellow, what did that lesson mean to you?" And the young man hadn't thought about it, I guess, as much as he wanted to. He sat back, puzzled for a second. He said, "Well, I guess if you're going to have a wedding, you better invite Jesus." It'd be nice to have somebody paying for all the festivities and really nice wine. And if any suggestion, because of our screwed up way our society looks at alcohol too many times in too many societies, the abuse of it is almost what we're insinuating here. Not in that culture. Boy, you'd get yourself in a whole lot of trouble. You get all sloppy drunk like that. That would be most unacceptable. So the alcoholism rate was very low because of that. No, this celebration was, wow, we're going to have, and it's right out of Isaiah 25, on this mountain. There's going to be the finest of meats and the best of wine on this very mountain. This is going to be some celebration like you never saw before. Non-stop party. If you can put a very reverent and, we'll just leave the word reverent spin on that word. Let's party. In the presence of God. My favorite story about that. Well, I got to finish it now that I started it. The banquet is going on when this guy goes to heaven. He dies and he goes to heaven. The one guy goes to hell. And he says, "Let me show you what this is like in hell," St. Peter says. He goes down there and a big banquet is going on with the finest of foods right out of Isaiah 25. Best of wines. Sweet potatoes with the butter roll and, oh man, all over your face. But these guys are sitting at the table, gaunt and starving. He looks, you remember my little story. I can't resist it though. The implements, the utensils, the forks and knives are strapped to their arms and they extend another 2 feet out. Well, which one? Oh, fork in this hand and knife in this hand. Right? Unless you're in Europe, those people, they're going to make me crazy. So you try to get your fork of sweet potatoes, and how are you going to get it to your mouth? You can get it in your ear over here, maybe. That's about the best you can do. So they can't eat. And they're starving with all this bounty in front of them. St. Peter takes him to heaven. And he goes up there and the big banquet's going on and everybody's hooping and hollering and the music is playing and they're all having the best old time. And he looks and the implements are in the same setting. Tied to their arms. Right here, same situation. Strapped so they can't get the food in their mouth. But he's smart enough to pause for a second and see what's going on. They're scooping the sweet potatoes out of the guy's plate across from him and feeding him. Cutting up his choice piece of turkey that the juice is just coming out, and he misses and just gets some on his face, and everybody's like, yes, time to party. Jesus' first miracle. Good grief. Isn't this a telling thing of what our God has called us to in Jesus Christ? Let us celebrate. The banquet the little simple way we do the Lord's Supper, a foretaste of something. Boy, this is going to be something. We're called on to celebrate with one another because of that. The love of God spilling out of us, the sweet potatoes running down our face. We're called on to have the finest of wines, not the 6 bottles of it, but the finest of wines. We go to this place in France, somewhere in France, Bordeaux, or where were we? Bordeaux. This last few months we were in Europe, and man, oh man, now I understand. I don't know nothing about wine or grammar, it appears. But I recognize in the tasting of those wines, wow, that is different. That is really something. It does something to the taste buds that goes into the soul. What would you want to drink too much of that for? That'd be silly. Our God has called us to see in the miracle of His Son, a great celebration of life. But look what Mary does to start this whole routine. She says, she goes immediately to her son, who's 30 years old and has yet to perform a miracle. She goes to his son because she knows who he is. They have no wine. Woman, and I read it improperly up. That wasn't a woman. That was a dignified and respectful way to speak to his mother. Woman, honored person, honored female person is really the way to say that. What does this have to? What the original language is? What is with you and with me? How are you hooking these together? They're not hooked together. And she doesn't even answer. Just go and do what he says. He says to the servants, and so they do. What's going on with Jesus' question is, you realize what you're about to do? You're about to flip it on. You're about to turn on the switch. Because when you ignite this fuse, it's going to explode on the cross at Calvary. It's going to really, better say, it's going to explode the stone holding the opening of the tomb. It's going to blow it off its hinges. You sure you know what you're doing here, Mother? Just do it. Well, there's a lot of ramifications to what's going on here. Sure, you know, it's happening in this little town of Cana of Galilee. This is a schnook, or not even Somerville, where my aunt lives. This is a little town. This could be Waconia or something like that. Little bitty town. And everybody's out. There's a family celebration here going on in it, and I'm going to speculate here. Don't hold me to this. But it looks like one of Jesus' sisters is being married, because Mary likely wouldn't have this much influence on the situation and wouldn't be as embarrassed if there wasn't enough wine to celebrate life with, if it was somebody else, even in this small town. It could have been one of Jesus' sisters, because there is some mention in the Bible. What I want you to do is not have us seen as a public scandal of not being prepared enough. For sometimes a week-long ceremony or celebration, these things would go on. I want you to take hold here, Jesus, Son, and I want you to make amazing things happen here. Can you do that for me? All right, I can do that. They get the celebration going that Jesus is honoring. This is a wedding, right? A newness of life. All these beginnings are happening. This new relationship between him and his mother, She's asked him to do something extraordinary. Manipulating the laws of physics a bit, just making the fermentation process happen quicker. This isn't grape juice, children of God. This is good Galilean wine. Real good. Probably the best this master of the ceremony had ever tasted in his life, the way he describes it. This newness, and I can't resist it. I try to look up, acknowledging your presence, Lord, and I see these tiles. Would you guys look up for a second? Isn't this beautiful? Thank the Lord for all responsible, especially our Lord, giving us, doesn't it look beautiful? Almost a Sistine Chapel I'm looking at. In other words, we got new tiles put in all week long and got cleaned up. It's beautiful. This is a great, wonderful, amazing celebration going on here. And I want you to grab hold of it, and I want you to see how much it means to me that I want the celebrations of life to be yours. Lots of new stuff going on here. A new relationship between this bride and bridegroom, possibly Jesus' sister, and a new relationship with his disciples. Everybody's all of a sudden seeing Jesus in a new light. You know, the reality that is, Jesus is not so much making disciples as he's making leaders. What his responsibility is, and kind of what my responsibility is in this parish, and the leadership's responsibility is make leaders go on and go out. Jesus now is doing these wonderful things. What causes us too often not to really acknowledge and celebrate the new things we're called to all the time? Jesus says only a repeating of the Old Testament proclamations of God. Behold, I make all things new all the time. All this old stuff that you're holding on to, let go of it. What is it? What is your tie to these old worries and fears and lack of celebration in life? I know some of them are formidable, but they're gone. And now a newness between me and you, a banquet I'm calling you to. That's what I want you to see. You see that Old Testament lesson? I'm going to call you by a new name. I can't keep quiet anymore. It starts out that way. I can't keep silent anymore because I've got too many voices. I'm hearing too many people talking to you. Too many situations informing you. Too many things on your mind you're preoccupied with. They're speaking too loud in your ear. I can't keep silent anymore. I can't not tell you what the real beneficial words that need to come into your ears are. You are the one I delight in. This is some of the come on, Brain. Some of the wives of Jacob. These are two names here. The first one is I delight in you, and it repeats it in the Hebrew without the name in the next verse. I delight in you. This is wonderful. Instead of being destitute and desolate, you're married to me. You're connected with me. I want you to really, really dig into this and hear the words that I'm saying to you. Stop all of the other listening that you're doing just for a second. You can listen to that later. You got plenty of time. Hear what I have to say to you. This life I called you to is a celebration. And you're letting the things that I'm walking with you through with you. You're letting those distract you from this celebration I've called you to. You've saved the best This is hard to grab a hold of. You saved the best for last. This is not a cliche. The best is yet to come. And I'm not just talking, you know he's not just talking about heaven, our home, but all the blessings he has for us to come in this life that'll be just a little step. Getting rid of this less than perfect body of ours, being blessed with a brand new body, just a little step. He says to Martha, I am the resurrection. It's already started. The party is now. The proclamation of the epistle lesson. Sorry, I'm in one of those modes where I'm thinking 70 thoughts at once, so you guys be patient with me. I'll bring it in, I promise. The proclamation of the epistle lesson is, look, this is all an individual celebration of life, right? Careful, don't shake your heads yes yet. No, I tricked you. Pastor, you're supposed to be telling the truth here. No, I'm sending you out doing this, yes, individually. I want you to party. I want you to celebrate. I want you to do it collectively, though, because I've given you all gifts, many different types of gifts. And you put those gifts together, and you start celebrating together, and they're going to call the law on you. It's going to get out of hand. It's going to be so wonderful. And we're going to start looking goofy because of the ability not to ignore the challenges, the struggles, but to, in the context and in the midst of the struggles, to really party, celebrate. I'm saved the best for last for you. But the kicker here is the end of the gospel lesson. All these brand new things are happening. Everything is being made new. This wedding that's going on, the unity you see among him and his disciples and his mother. You know, just a little side note there. Mother, you're kicking off something here. Your heart is going to be wrenched in half because you're going to be at the bottom of that cross with some of your girlfriends. You sure you want to kick that off? I don't know if she had the full grasp of that. You're going to walk through some really difficult stuff. You're going to see me die in agony. And you're going to see my resurrection. So, okay, let's go. So, the last is the best. He saved the best for last, even after the proclamation of the steward of the wedding. The master of the wedding. He says, let's just read it. Well, I'll read the whole verse. This is the first sign Jesus did at Cana in Galilee and manifested his glory. We see who he is now. This is Epiphany. We see who he is. And then the kicker. And his disciples believed in him. They stopped the mischief, this unbelief that comes from Satan, that comes from our own sinful flesh, that comes from the voices of the world. They stopped doubting and believed. They grabbed on for the ride, for the celebration, for the party. And man, what a ride it was for these guys. And man, what a ride for us. A great celebration, and the best will be saved for last when we'll get to see him face to face. Let's go now. Let's take a hold of this celebration he's called us to for Christ's sake our Lord.